Hi, I'm here with Simon Vance today. He's a really lovely friend of mine. I've known him for years. In fact, we used to live together. And I'm in Manchester talking to him today, staying with him for the last few days. And we're going to be talking about self-love and twin flames today. Simon's just gone through an experience that I think would be amazing to share with you. And I asked him and he said, yes, he'd love to share it. I think for people going through this experience, seeing somebody who's gone through it and come out the other side stronger is an amazing healing in itself. And I'm really grateful that Simon's here going to share his story with us. So Simon, welcome to our hangout today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I'd love you to share your story about your twin flame.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about what I mean by twin flame. I recently watched a fascinating video by Matt Kahn. I don't know if you know Matt Kahn.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, and he talks about twin flames and soulmate contracts. He talks about it under the the title of soul contracts that we have with people. And for Matt, twin flames represent those highly charged and magnetic connections that we have, often with a romantic partner, but not exclusively. These people who come into our lives and it's intense, it moves quickly, and often, in the early days, it seems to be too good to be true. Everything is amazing, it's intense, it's full of passion, and typically after a period of time, it starts to become quite uncomfortable and can often end up, tearing us apart. In many instances, and I think everyone's had at least one of those experiences of somebody who came into their lives and just kind of tore their life apart and left them wondering, what had happened, like a train had hit them. And it's tempting, I think, when this happens, when the relationship goes awry, it's tempting to. Sometimes it's very hard not to feel like a victim or to feel sorry for yourself. No one likes to be hurt, no one likes to be abused in any way, and sometimes it's more comfortable to kind of just blame the other person and to think, well, I was better off without them, and maybe that was a mistake, and I wish that hadn't happened to me. But what Matt teaches us is that this is not the most productive way to view these relationships, because when we do that, we remain stuck in the pattern, and we're more likely to manifest another similar relationship somewhere down the road, because the things that we resist and the things that we don't accept are the very things that we're going to keep pulling back. Because they're there for our life, they come into our lives precisely for resolution, so that we can learn to accept them. And I know this was definitely true for me, that I had more than one experience like this, and there were definite similarities between this last relationship I had and an earlier relationship I had about 10 years ago. And looking back, I can now see that I hadn't fully resolved that relationship, and there were still things that I was judging in myself and in other people. And so life brought this up in a big way for me to take a second look. So I think it's really important for people to recognize that if they have a pattern of going in and out of a similar kind of relationship, and they don't like that, they don't like what they're manifesting, it's highly likely that there are things that they're judging in both themselves and in the other person and resisting. And that's where we can start to do some of this healing work, is to really kind of be honest with ourselves and to start learning to accept the shadow. It's really shadow work that we're talking about here. It's another thing that Matt talks about a lot, is how do we embrace the shadow. When we try and cut things off and discard parts of ourselves and of other people. I don't like that person, they are to this, they're to that. If we don't like ourselves in the company of other people or in relationship with other people, and so we avoid those types of people, or we try to avoid those types of people because we don't like the person they bring out. Unfortunately, this creates it creates dissonance and tension, and that tension actually acts as a strong magnet, which is going to pull more of the very thing that we're trying to avoid into our lives. So this has been my journey, this experience, which really did tear me apart in a big way, and I spent a long time resisting it, and it kept me stuck. It kept me stuck in the relationship. I was very unhappy, very stressed out and confused, And it was only when I finally started to realize that, you know, this was, I had to take a look at what was brought up and be honest with myself and be more loving with myself. And that was what finally gave me the peace of mind and of heart to be able to walk away and say, right, I no longer want to do this for myself.
Mm-hmm. And I know you as a very strong person, very strong-minded person. You've got a lot of self-confidence, self-esteem. You look after your body. You know, you are very holistic. But in this relationship, all of that went completely.
Yeah.
So it's when you're not looking after yourself, when you're attracting that sort of destructive energy to you, it affects you in so many different ways.
It does, yeah. And I think the most destructive thing, again, is actually the resistance. That's what causes the biggest amount of stress. It's when we remain stuck in a pattern of resistance, it keeps us stuck in the situation, but it also puts such an amount, it places so much stress on our bodies and our emotional well-being and spiritual well-being. My physical health suffered quite a lot because of it. But I now understand that it was really my resistance to what was that was doing the most damage.
Yeah, and so many of us resist change, and that's when we get the most growth in our life.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's we've been talking about people regretting a relationship, and I think that's quite a destructive thing to do, because then you're stuck in that old energy and you can't move on. But if you can see that old relationship as a learning experience, grab your learning from it. And I work with the subconscious mind with my clients, and I always do that. Once you can get the learning from anything that's happened to you, you can start healing.
Definitely. I totally agree with you. As I was saying earlier, you know, we've got to be careful we don't demonize people and you know, label them as bad people or evil people, because it really holds us back. I'm a firm believer of that. Doesn't mean to say we have to keep these toxic relationships. Of course not. You know, abuse is real, and the pain that we feel in abusive relationships is absolutely real. And the most loving thing we can do is to get out. But we must do it. Well, we must. I think it's far more healing to do it from a place of self-compassion and also compassion for the other. Just because we seek to understand why the person treats us the way they do and why this happens, that doesn't mean that we condone it, and it doesn't mean that we are going to remain vulnerable to it. In fact, I think the opposite is true. I think the more we're able to kind of see it and understand it and allow ourselves to see things from different points of view, and to see the divine wisdom behind it as well. The most horrifying things in life are still divinely orchestrated. As difficult as that is sometimes to believe, it's true. Everything is divinely orchestrated, and when we can remind ourselves of that, it actually helps us to process it and move on. It doesn't keep us stuck. It does the opposite.
I completely believe that, and I talk quite a lot about my childhood and my biological mother, who was schizophrenic. You know, that was abuse from when I was born. But that experience, I had a lot of pain and I had a lot of things to work through. But through that, I studied the subconscious mind, and I've been able to help a lot of people. And I've had, as you know, control issues, and I've had lots of issues in my life, and OCD, and which is part of the control issue. And I've managed to overcome that to an extent where I'm okay now. You know, yes, I'm tidy and whatever. But through that experience and through that abuse, I help a lot of people through doing what I do. And actually, Global Healing Exchange has come out of that, because all the knowledge that I learned and all the healing that I've done, I want to share that with people. So I could sit and look at that and think, oh, you know, I was abused and I was a victim. Or I can think, wow, I'm so grateful for that experience, because look where it's led me to now. 45 years later, I'm doing what I love, I'm helping a lot of people, and I'm getting to connect with people like you as well, who share their stories. And I think sharing stories is the most healing thing that we can do for ourselves, but also for others, because people then recognize something within your story that they can connect with. And it's a bit like the hero's journey. You can see that, you know, we've gone through all of these stages, but you come out okay at the end, or you come out feeling happier and higher vibration. And we have to go through these experiences to come and get our learnings.
Absolutely. I love what you said. I mean, it's a lot of it comes down to trust, doesn't it? I've definitely suffered from, you know, I guess it's too much attachment to control, wanting to feel that I can control the way things are going, and typically it's led to exhaustion on some level, or frustration at the very least. And it's been a big thing for me in the last couple of years. It's just learning to let go. You know, I've read about trusting and letting go, and I've probably paid lip service to it, but it's something quite different. Really, really getting into that kind of place of letting go and trusting. And you know, some of the lowest ebbs throughout the relationship I've just come out of, I found it very difficult to let go, because I just felt that if I let go, then, you know, I was just going to suffer more and more and more. But no, in actual fact, at some point I had no choice but to let go. And as has happened every time in my life, I finally, as I started to come out of that, I could already start to see the many ways in which this experience has benefited me. Everything happens for our good. As hard as that is to believe sometimes, it really is true. Everything is divinely orchestrated and inspired. And if we just try to, obviously in the depths of despair, it's not always possible, but you know, there are going to be moments where we're very identified with our pain and our suffering, but we do get windows, and it's those windows where we're a little bit calmer and a little bit lighter, where we can just do some spiritual practice to remind ourselves that this is for our own good. And as long as we allow ourselves to process it and to look for the lessons, then we have an amazing opportunity to achieve greater self-love, and of course, love for everyone else as well.
Mm-hmm. So in retrospect, looking back, what were your windows of divinity? What were the things that you maybe should have listened to that you didn't listen to? Maybe it might be friends who you trust say something to you, but you didn't go in. You sort of listened to it, but it didn't. So were there any examples of that?
Absolutely. I think the first thing was the messages that my body was telling me. All of us possess the most amazing emotional intelligence, and our emotional intelligence speaks to us through our body, also through, you know, imagery as well, but it's particularly through the body. That's the main source of communication, and we're taught to ignore that. I think especially in the West, the way we're educated, we're taught to use our rational minds, and you know, anything which is feeling based is too subjective, and it's too kind of wishy-washy, and it's not reliable enough. But this is a big mistake, in my opinion. I think that obviously our minds are great tools, and there's a place for rational thinking, but without the structure of intuition and emotional intelligence, it can be very dangerous. It can lead to psychopathic thinking, and a lot of the suffering that we see in the world today is precisely due to this detachment from our emotional intelligence. That's one of the things that makes us human, you know. So I had warning signs from my body well before my mind caught up, and I didn't listen to it. I had strong gut feelings, strong sensations in my body that were trying to alert me to the fact that something was very wrong. Didn't listen to it. Then, of course, you know, as you said, the people around us will often spot things that we don't see, and again, you know, it's tempting to see what we want to see. You know, all of us can be romantic and seek for reassurance and you know, look for things which bolster the views that we are clinging to, even if there are signs that maybe things aren't the way we'd like to believe. But I did both of those. I ignored my feelings, I ignored the advice of other people, and I kept going. And all along I was getting more and more unwell, more and more depressed. But even if we don't pay attention initially, there comes a point where we pretty much can't ignore the signs anymore. The body will turn up the volume on the messages that it gives us, and so will the universe. You know, the universe will keep sending us messages until finally we start paying attention, and we can start to really be honest with ourselves about where we're at and what we need.
I totally agree. I had this with my adrenal exhaustion, and I know that you've suffered this as well in the past. You know, because we've got very strong minds, we just override our body, and it's like, I can just do this, and I can do 16 hours a day at work, and I won't have a break, and I won't have a holiday, and suddenly your body gives up, because it's been giving you these signs of lethargy, tiredness, brain fog, all of that, and it's like, no, I'm still going to go, and then suddenly one day you can't move it anymore. And it's the same whether it's a relationship, whether it's looking after your body. Listen to the messages, because they will only ever get stronger if you don't listen to them.
And it's the wisdom of the body. I've never ever been, the messages that I've received from my body have never been wrong. When I've had a strong gut feeling about something, when I've had a strong intuition about something, it's always proven to be more accurate than what I thought I'd figured out in my mind. So when there's a discord between our mind and our bodies, we need to pay close attention, because that's a real sign that we're missing something, that we've misjudged something.
Yeah, cool. So thank you for sharing that. So for anyone that's in that situation now, that is trying to get out of it, what would you suggest for them?
Sure. I think I'd just like to reiterate really that, we listen to your body, listen to your emotions. Don't allow anybody, especially your significant other. I know it's quite common, especially in relationships which have become a bit abusive or a little bit tumultuous. It's common for partners to dismiss,
especially if the weaker one or is in victim mode, and their self-esteem's been squashed and everything. You can't always think straight for yourself.
I was constantly being told that I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, I was too sensitive. And actually, no, what I was feeling was real. The pain I was feeling was real, and I was often too confused to understand why I was feeling that way. But the feelings were telling me, they were giving me a very clear indication that something was wrong. If you relate to that, don't allow anybody to tell you that you're imagining things or that you're being too whatever. Listen to your feelings and trust them, and just keep asking for help. Ask your higher self, your guides, ask the universe for help, and keep trusting that no matter how difficult it might be, it will serve you. It is for your own good. It is for your own growth, and it will have a peaceful resolution at some point.
And to know there's always help. Even if you can't find that strength within you to build yourself up and get yourself out of that, you can always go and find somebody, find a friend, find a therapist, find support. In abusive. There's always something out there for you. I think the message here is just you need that little spark in you to recognize it and have that awareness. Then that's the very first thing that it starts you on your journey to creating change. And actually, when you start creating change, that's when your health starts getting better. That's when your energy starts coming back. And it's then you start focusing on that rather than focusing on being stuck in the old negative.
Definitely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And we'll speak to you next time.
I look forward to it.